Got it. Thank you. And call the roll. Commissioner Dave Cahill.
Here.
Commissioner Barbara McKenzie.
Here.
Commission Vice Chair Thomas Haeuser.
Here.
I just got a note from Deborah a few minutes ago. She had a personal situation and was not thinking she would be able to join. So if she does, that would be great. But I think we will proceed, even though she's not here, and we'll do the best we can. Okay. Item 2, announcements. Pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953, all votes during this teleconference meeting shall be taken by roll call. I don't think we have any votes coming up, but good to know. All right, item 3, which I skipped over last time. You had to rope me back, Jen. Public appearances. Members of the public who wish to address the commission regarding matters not on the agenda should request recognition at this time. Did we have any emails, Jen, to us from people who wanted to make public comments?
No written comments were submitted this month.
Okay, and is there any member of the public who's attending who would like to make an appearance to discuss something not on the agenda? Okay, I'm going to move along to the discussion items. Before we jump in, I have an announcement that we're gonna pull item 4.3, the second draft of the Measure Y allocation methodology and procedures. The staff would like a little more time to look into this. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Commissioner Fred Engbarth, who reminded us of some of the issues and information that were current when Measure Y passed. I think this is a really important topic. I'd like us to get it right. So we're gonna pull that item. And we will look to add it to next month's agenda, Jen, if that's okay. All right, item 4.1, it is great to see our new CFO, Myrna Lopez. Now, I know you had a chance to meet her briefly at the commission meeting, which was her first day. Now she's a 2-week veteran of the Sonoma County Library. Myrna, I'm going to invite you to say a few words to the committee, but I would just like to say before you start that I was part of the selection process. So I had a chance to not only review, Myrna's background and resume, but to interview her twice. And I think, like other members of the committee, I was very impressed by both her background and her passion for the work that we do, and very excited to have her here. So Myrna, would you just say a little bit about the journey that brought you here and what you found in the first 2 weeks on the job here at Sonoma County Library? I think you're on mute.
Always
there
have
you go.
That mute button.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you, Andy, for that. And yes, it is a great pleasure to join the Sonoma County Library. My journey is a long one. Always been in public service, and know that that's my passion. That's been my calling, to be in public service, and working on various issues from economic development and environmental protection with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency right after grad school, and making sure that funding came to California for environmental justice and cleanup of contaminated sites. And found through that my passion was really with local agencies, local government, and worked for various agencies and cities and governments in California, well, in the Bay Area for the most part, city and county of San Francisco, city of Oakland, the county of Alameda, also a short stint with the city of Richmond as a former council member, and most recently with Alameda County. And I've been responsible for budgets from $30 million to $400 million portfolios. Really am passionate about the finances. The budget of an organization does truly reflect the values of where the agency invests. And here at the library certainly reflects the values of the organization and the people that make those decisions. So happy to join you all. I've met with the management team and jumped right in to start working on issues, and very happy that I could be of service, and also look forward to a work plan, short-term and long-term projects that we'll be working on to continue to strengthen the Sonoma County Library and provide those services that our community really needs and wants from us.
Well, that's great. Thank you. And I know we'll be calling on you throughout the meeting to talk about a number of items, and then again at the end for something related to that work plan. But for the members of the committee, any quick questions for Myrna as you get to know her?
Yeah, I have one. Myrna,
Yes.
what has been your biggest surprise so far here?
Oh, the biggest surprise. I guess the greatest impression is that the commission is very committed, as well as management and frontline staff, to continue to strengthen the finances of the organization, and that the Sonoma County Library is partnering with the county to do that. Those that you've been taking some very good, strong steps in making sure that those financials controls are in place, and that's I like to see that and to continue that work. So, I guess one of the things that I've learned is that that a CFO, the one that had been here for many years, retired, and then you've had a series of CFOs, and so I'm happy to be here to continue the work and fill the leadership here in that role.
And we are happy to have you. Any other questions for Myrna? Okay, well, thank you. I did want to note, Jen, that Commissioner Doyle has joined by phone. She'll be on mute and may have to drop at some point, but she is here now. Okay, let's move over to the financial reports, and we'll pull up first the summary report. And I'm just going to enlarge the screen as much as I can here. And I think rather than making my usual commentary, I'm going to invite Myrna and Randy to just give a quick overview of what you're seeing big picture. Now, at this point, just a reminder for the committee, we are 4 months into the year. So for most items relating to expenses, we would expect to be at about 33% year to date of the budget figure. Now, in terms of revenue, we're only reporting 2 months of sales tax revenue, because as you know, there is a 60-day delay in recognizing that. And we won't really see our first property tax revenue until December. So with that in mind, Myrna and Randy, would you just take a moment and give us your big picture sense on the summary report of how we're doing year to date with regard to the budget?
Would you like to go first, Myrna, or would you like me to jump
Oh,
in?
go ahead, Randy. You prepared these monthly reports.
Okay, well, thank you. I wanted to check first. So as Andy mentioned, even though this report is only showing 2 months of sales tax collections, if we were to look at this on a cash basis, so that the actual cash receipts that we receive for sales tax for all 4 months, we've received just under $5.5 million in sales tax receipts this year, which is obviously really, really good number if you look on a percentage basis. I think we're trending really well on the sales tax. For October, we had just under 1.5 million. It's continues to be trending upwards. So it's all good news on the sales tax side at this point in time. As Andy mentioned, we won't be getting our property tax, our large apportionment, until December. On the expenditure side, the one thing that may stand out is the jump in salaries and benefits. And that is because we were able to process 3 pay periods in October as opposed to the normal 2 that you would generally see each month. And otherwise, everything is pretty much trending where we would expect them to. There's a slide down or drop in the capital expenses. I'm not quite sure why there was a drop. There may be a large project or a portion of a project was completed. We can look into that if there's any concern over the drop in capital expenses. So other than that, those are the comments that I have on the high level view of what we're seeing, what we saw in October.
Thanks, Randy. Myrna, anything you want to add before we jump into a couple of questions?
No, not anything right now. Maybe at the end, just in terms of next steps and going forward, since we're getting closer to the 6-month mark.
Sure. And by the way, just for the committee's benefit, I think we all recognize this. Randy and his team have been doing a really fine job of preparing the financial reports. We're going to be continuing with them for the foreseeable future. We want to give Myrna a chance to ramp up and assess and develop our internal policies and procedures and practices relating to accounting and financial management. Eventually, more of these responsibilities will transition to her and her team, but we're not, I'm calling on you to give you the opportunity to say something, but we're not expecting you to be demonstrating any specific mastery of this material after 2 weeks on the job. So a couple of questions I had, and I'll, Dave, Barbara, and Tom, please jump in as well. I was curious about the rents, because in the month of September, rents are going along in the mid 60,000 range, which is close to what the annual budget is. But we had an extra $40,000 or so in the month of September. Anne or Myrna, anybody know what accounted for that 1 month increase?
If I may, I believe
Please.
that there was an adjustment for a prepaid expense related to the prior fiscal year, if I remember correctly. I had checked in with Lorena. This question came up in last month's meeting.
Right.
And I believe there was a $40,000 adjustment related to a prepaid expense. And that's the reason why you see that jump in September.
So, Randy, could you just elaborate on when you say an adjustment related to a prepaid expense? Did we prepay this and now it's being reflected as an expense in the current period?
Generally, yes, that's what happens. If there's an expense or say we get an invoice for multiple number of months that extend into the next fiscal year, we will pay that at the time the invoice is received, but record as a prepaid expense. So last year it was shown as a prepaid expense. This is actually an asset account. And we get into the next fiscal year, we need to clean out those balances and actually recognize the expense in the period that it was incurred. And so it may just have been a matter of clearing out that prepaid expense account that had something in it related to rents that was processed. So now you see that jump in September. Now it may be reflective of rents, that are going to be that are applicable to months in the future. I can't answer that right now because I don't know the details of the adjustment. This is just what I got back from my staff when I inquired about what the adjustment was, and they said it was a prepaid expense item.
Okay, thanks. Barbara, looked like you had a hand up there.
Well, to that point that was just made, I think that since this question has been brought up and it's $40,000, we need a more specific response next time if we could. I mean, it's kind of vague still. And it's it's kind of unanswered question on the table. If I did put my hand up, I was curious about, are we asking questions about any of the reports? Or are we staying on this front page right now?
Let's stay on the front page for the
Okay.
moment, and then we'll move quickly through the others, if that's okay. Did you have something else on this page? No. I had a question. I know we've talked about this before, but I just want to continue to track it. The other expense item that's trending well ahead of where we would expect to be is other contract services. I know that we're currently engaging Group 4 regarding the facilities master plan. So I guess, Anne, the question I would have for you is, as you look at this, is it simply a question that the budgeted expenses are kind of front loaded in the first half of the year, or are you anticipating that there's going to have to be a budget adjustment because our contract services are going to be over where we had budgeted them?
It's the first. It's just a matter of timing. And once this facilities plan is completed, the other contract services will be negligible.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any other questions on the summary? All right, let's move through the other reports, and I'd like to handle them by, Barbara, you had another question on this? Sorry, you're kind of flickering in and out there, but I see your hand raised.
My hand wasn't raised.
Your hand is raised. There you go. Thank you. Okay. So let's move quickly through the other reports by exception. On the cash balance summary, I didn't have any questions. Anyone else on the committee? Okay, seeing none. I want to move to the statement of special fund activity. I have a question here, but Barbara, if you have the question that I have, I'm going to let you ask it.
Well, if you're referring to what I asked before about making sure we had our 15% reserves taken out of both funds, I see that we did, if that's what you're referring to.
So that's the area, but I'm going to be a little more nitpicky because I'm looking at the bottom of the first page. If you can just scroll down a little bit now. Thanks, Jen. So it looks like the fund balance committed to rate stabilization from property taxes, 3.965 million. And on the next page, if we could please scroll down to the bottom of that page, I see that there is a fund balance committed to rate stabilization of 2.015 million. When I added these two up and compared them to the annual budget figure that appeared on the first page of the reports, they didn't equal 15%. I only got 13.8%, which is close. But so I guess my first question is, has anybody noticed that? And the second question is, what do we need to do to be sure that we're in line with the 15% that we're asked to set aside?
If I could jump in here, Andy, this is one
Please,
of the
Randy.
questions that I had when I worked with staff on adding this in or putting the number was a confusion about whether or not the intent of this rate stabilization is 15% of total budget or of budgeted operating expenditures. I believe right now the numbers that are being shown are based upon operating expense budget, not total budget. And so that may be the difference. And the reason why we decided to go with the operating expenses for this iteration is that generally with capital expenses, which is usually your other category of expenses, there's so much fluctuation year to year that it would seem to make more sense to rely on budgeted quote unquote operating expenses. However, I asked for clarification from you and the committee. Do you want it to be operating expenses or total budgeted expenses for the year?
Well, great point. And so let me just clarify, Randy. It sounds like the difference between total expenses and operating expenses is that total expenses include capital expenses, operating expenses do not. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And so then the question is, which do we want to reflect? Barbara, I'm going to turn first to you because you have been driving this train for some time.
I can't put my hands right this second on our fund balance policy, but it should be whatever our fund balance policy says. And maybe it's not specific enough, but I'll keep looking for it here while you're having a conversation about it.
Well, I agree with you. Let's see if I can. All right, approved fund balance policy. I'm going to pull this up. I've got it. Let me. Jen, can I share screen? Looks like I can't. Let's see. Okay, let me see if I can do it now. Have I done this?
Yes.
Okay.
That appears to be the old version, is it? Is that the one that we just recently approved?
Well, good question. No, this is 2018. I don't know that I have a more current fund balance policy.
I can find it for you. Give me just a second.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry.
It says 15% of the library's budgeted expenditures annually, which is everything. It's an expenditure. Huh.
Yeah, that's kind of how I read it, Dave. Barbara, Tom, do you read it the same way?
That was my memory, and that was that's what the language looks like to me.
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward here.
All right. So, Randy, I think we're going to agree that we need to include the total budget, not just the operating budget.
Okay, we will make that change and it will be reflected in the November reports.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, those were the only questions I had on that report. Anybody have anything else on the statement of special fund activity? Okay, let's take a look at voucher payments over $50,000. Any questions or comments? Barbara, I see a hand. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I appreciate the fact that we footnoted the collections last time I brought up that question about the allocation to sales tax. And so Randy has, as we asked, changed, so we have an asterisk down there about there will be an adjustment made at some point in time. I think we have that same problem though with some of these other issues. Let's see, Cersei Dynex, as I made a note here about Cersei Dynex, that is, let's see, all charged to sales tax. So number one, I question whether it should all be charged to sales tax. And secondly, I'm wondering, do we ever transfer the other direction? Do we ever allocate, we're always talking about we've charged it to property tax, but then we reallocate quarterly to sales tax. I don't know if we ever go back in the other direction, and this would be something that would be caught or appropriately changed quarterly in the other direction. But this is a contract to run our whole system, and I don't think that would be all Measure Y expense.
Well, I understand and appreciate the question. Given that we've deferred until next month the discussion about the Measure Y allocation policy, I feel like we're going to have to defer this item to that as well. I realize this is getting a little circular, but if we don't have a policy that we can all nod in agreement and say, yes, this is how we're doing it, then I think other than noting that we're going to need to come back and reconsider this, I'm not sure that there's anything that we can do.
Okay, I'd just like to go on record then as having of making this statement about this and also asking the question. We should all know the answer if things are reversed, if it's always sales tax or property tax, or could these adjustments go both ways into both funds? And then to kind of the larger point, you had mentioned earlier that we are not going to talk about the policy or the methodology this time, which is, fair. I had a bunch of notes too, and I kind of understood from what you said that we weren't going to talk about it, in part because some comments submitted by Commissioner Ingbarth. And I'm just wondering, can others of us submit comments that we were going to make today?
I'm sorry if I misspoke, Barbara. These were not comments. These were references to documents that existed at the time of the approval. So we're going back and looking at the language that was shared with the public when they were asked to approve the document. So these are not personal perspectives. This is kind of historical record. And let me ask you this: what do you envision as the process that you and the staff are going to be undertaking over the next month to prepare a revised draft for our consideration?
We want to go back and look at all of the documents that were extant at the time of the passage of Measure Y, including informational pieces that were shared with the public about what the money would be used for, so that we're making sure that we are staying faithful to that intent. And then we'll use that to craft a recommendation for the commission's discussion that I think will be more appropriate to what we're trying to accomplish and what I'm sure you would like to support.
Okay, so Barbara, in view of that, I think I'm going to suggest that we not make personal comments now. Let's let Ann and the staff do this work, and then they will bring a draft to us, and that would be the time. Are you okay deferring your personal comments until we have something to actually bounce them off of?
Yeah, that's fine. I just thought, I misunderstood what you said about, I thought some communication had happened. And I just want to be part of the discussion about this. I have a number of questions that I've asked before. And so I had a number of questions about this. So no, I'm happy to discuss it with everyone at the same time.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Dave. I see you have a
Yeah,
hand up.
I have hit a couple of comments also, and I want to know, I would like to write a memo about one of my comments, because I think the draft we've got here is conceptually flawed. To whom do I write such a memo? Anne, you, Deborah, nobody?
Well, I'm going to butt in here. Until we have the other draft, I'm not sure that a memo is appropriate.
That's my view also. I think, Dave, listen, I value your expertise and your perspective. And I'm really sorry if I misspoke and gave anybody the impression that Commissioner Engbarth had shared a personal perspective. He had not. He had drawn our attention to some documents that were extant at the time that Measure Y was put before the public. What I'm going to suggest is that we let Anne and the staff do their work. Let's let them review the historical documents, come to us with their recommendation, and then let's debate it robustly. Are you okay if we follow that process?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just
Okay.
save my notes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
David, what I suggest you do is write your thing and hold it for yourself so you've got it ready.
Yeah, so I've got it here, okay?
Okay.
I want to say that I think this is going to be more than a 1 month discussion or a 20-minute discussion. This is inordinately complex, a lot of political documents out there. This is said, that said, what's going, and none of it is simple.
Right. Now, I agree with you, and so I don't want to make any promises around how long it will take us to discuss it or how many rounds we'll have to go through. I think my request would be, and this would apply for anyone on the committee. Please, take time, write down your notes and your thoughts, but let's let Ann and the team do their work before we provide additional perspectives. Okay.
Yeah, just one more thing, Andy.
Yes, sir.
For Myrna especially, this new policy has to be bulletproof. We cannot have any questionable Measure Y expenditures, because if so, we're probably doomed in the election. Anyway, so I mentioned this before, I think.
I think, look, your point is well taken. I think we all appreciate the seriousness of the issue. We all want to do what's right. Unfortunately, as Tom said, it's not simple. If it were easy, we would have already solved it. So let's let Ann and the staff take some time on this, and then we will, I promise that we will allow suitable opportunity for a robust discussion and debate on this, okay? Any other questions relating to voucher payments over 50K? Okay, let's move on then to property tax. I know this is a hard one to size for the screen here. And when you do, we can't see it that well. Thankfully, by the way, the printed reports that I've been getting, Jen, have been great. Everybody else happy with what they have been receiving?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jen, for what you're doing. Anyone have any questions or concerns relating to this report? I have a few questions, but I'm going to defer them because in almost each case, and so actually, Randy, let me just ask you a general question. In almost each case, when I saw an item on this report that seemed to be higher than I expected, I could find I could find an identical account on the sales tax report that had budgeted dollars, but didn't have expenses yet. And I'm assuming that what I'm seeing is the fact that, again, it's this same issue of allocation, that expenses have initially been charged against property tax. They may not have been reallocated in part to sales tax, so that the combined figure is fine. It's just that they seem out of line on this report. Is that in fact something that I could be seeing here?
That could very well be the reason. However, at this point in time, the only account that we would still be doing allocation for is the books and materials account. None of the others have been approved as far as us redoing the 67-33% split. So that would be a matter of communication to the accounting staff when invoices are initially paid, if it should be split accordingly. But the only one that we would be handling from an allocation standpoint after the fact would be the books and materials expenses.
Well, can I ask you a question then, Randy? I'm going to just, sorry to get really in the weeds here. I'm going to look at one item, which is account 51901 for telecommunication data lines. This has a budget of $20,000, year-to-date expenses of $37,000. So we're already over, we're at 186%. Whereas if I jump ahead to sales tax, we have a line item for 51901 with an annual budget of 176,000, but year-to-date expenses of only 15,000. This seems to me like an example where, overall we're fine, but at the moment it looks like we're way over on property tax. Is there something else that could be accounting for that?
I think that's a perfect observation, and this is one of the accounts that we had discussed. I want to say that Ann and I had discussed when we were looking at the proposed reallocation of budget between property tax and Measure Y. And if memory serves, this is one of those accounts where we're looking at moving everything into Measure Y. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that one, because we did discuss a number of accounts. I think the overall consensus was that the majority of telecommunication data lines expense belonged in Measure Y, but for now they are being coded. When the payments are initially being made, they are being coded to property tax.
Okay.
So it's a matter of internally getting the word out that those bills should be coded to sales tax.
Right, and until we have the policy finalized, I don't want to spend more time questioning this. I feel comfortable that the overall expenses are in line. Barbara, I see you have a hand up.
Well, I just have to comment on that because again, the Measure Y funds are supposed to supplement, and if we already had data telecommunication lines before Measure Y, which I believe we did, 100% of the telecommunication line costs should not be allocated to Measure Y. So I agree, it's part of a larger discussion, but I just wanted to challenge that just because Randy just said that, and I don't think that's correct in terms of where we're going.
Well, it may not be correct in terms of where we're going. I don't think we're going to resolve it today, and I don't think we want to have staff reallocating until we sort it out. So Tom,
Right.
I see you've got a hand up.
A thought has been running through my mind for a couple of months, and this is looking forward to the Measure Y renewal that we'll be looking forward to in a couple of years. And this is so complex. Should we be thinking about that renewal? It's something that's going to be simpler and less complex, where we're jumping through these little hoops and counting the angels on the pin and all this kind of stuff. I just want to throw that out there as a thought to put out there to think what we want to ask for the next time around.
Couldn't
Right.
agree more.
Duly noted. And Deborah, thanks for joining. I absolutely, but at the moment, we've got to deal
Not what
with
we've got.
what we have. So that'll be a lesson learned.
Andy,
This is Myrna, if I could
Please go ahead, Myrna.
something, is it is very clear in the ordinance that Measure Y is to supplement and not supplant. And making clear what that means is important in defining the methodology for allocating. Also, what is in that methodology, it is very much of a balancing act, as Commissioner Haeuser has said, because it is complex, is that you also want to make sure that you fully utilize responsibly, given the policies that you have, Measure Y, so that the public and the voters see that the funds are being fully utilized, as well as the property taxes. So it's a big picture question, and we hope to enlighten that with the research that we're doing in-house.
That would be great. Thank you. Are there any, I'm sorry, Randy, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry to interrupt. So I pulled up the worksheet that Ann and I worked on, and I misspoke on the telecommunication data lines expense. Our draft right now actually has 100% of those expenses being moved to property tax and not sales tax. So my apologies for that.
Okay, well, if that's the case, this would then, to me, be an example of something that we would want to take up with the mid-year budget review, right? Because we currently have budgeted a significant amount of money for data lines, but against sales tax revenue. So that's an adjustment we'll need to make, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. I don't have any other questions personally. Anybody else have any questions relating to the property tax or sales tax detail? Okay. Thanks for the thoughtful discussion. All right, we're gonna skip item 4.3 and go right to 4.4.
Excuse me. Sorry, Chair Elkind. Barbara McKenzie has her hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara, I missed you. I apologize.
Well, I was kind of waiting until we got to this page, but I guess we kind of are going to talk about this page. But I just want to have a quick question. Under the gifts and donations page,
I was not planning to do that except on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, but if you have a specific question, please go ahead.
well, maybe we could just get this answered on a semi or quarterly basis. The funds that are listed here are not the funds under the restricted funds, which show in another place. And I was just curious, my feeling has always been that a lot of this is friends donations money, but I saw that in something called library system, overall library system is almost $400,000 in there. And I just, at some point when we have a report, I would like to get a little more detail about what's in there. And apologize, because I remember that you said we'd just talk about these quarterly. So, but if Randy could make a note of that for his quarterly report, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, Jen, could you please note that Commissioner McKenzie has asked for that, and we'll do it as a follow-up item?
Certainly.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Barbara. Anything else before we move off of the reports? Okay, we're going to jump to item 4.4. Ann, can you please give us a quick update on what you're hearing from Pisenti and Brinker? I'm guessing you and Randy have been in touch with them. How are things going?
Things are going well. Actually, Randy is the one who's been the primary contact, and he had a conversation with them today. So Randy, would you like to report on that?
I'd be happy to. So it's I received notification from Kellen Gilbert from Pisenti and Brinker on Friday evening, and Kellen is the gentleman who presented the 1819 audit to the commission.
Yeah.
He expressed a little concern over the delay in getting the OPEB, or what we call the GASB 75 report for fiscal year 2021. And so I did a little research and had a couple discussions. And unfortunately, the report has still not yet been completed. It's still in progress, and that is holding up us getting the draft financial statements and the notes for the fiscal 2021 year. as quickly as we would like to. And so I spoke with Kel and let him know that we are still working with the vendor and getting that completed, and we'll have it ready as soon as possible. On the positive side, we are virtually done with the 1920 audit information. It has not yet been submitted to Pisenti and Brinker because we realize that as we work through 2021, we will uncover things that need to be adjusted in the 1920 audit. But we're in good shape on 1920. For 2021, it's really dependent on how quickly we can get that OPEB report. One of the concerns that Kellen had mentioned is that they want to make sure that they receive all that information for 2021 by the end of November in order to provide a draft to the commission at the commission's December report or meeting, I should say. And that's a little bit in doubt right now because of the delay we're seeing in the OPEB report. If we can get it in the next couple of days, then it may be possible. But that's the one concern that we have. Overall, I just got a new notification. We get online notifications from their portal that shows we're currently at 64% completion. So when I say 64% completion, that means 64% of all items requested by Pisenti and Brinker have been submitted to them and accepted by them. In other words, we've provided and have accepted them as complete. So we're working very diligently on trying to take care of the other 36% that's outstanding. It's a very high priority for both us and for Pisenti and Brinker to get that done as quickly as possible.
So Randy, quick question, and thank you for the update. This GASB report for OPEB, who prepares that?
Apparently, we have a new vendor, and the name of the vendor escapes me right now. Anne, do you know the name of the new supplier that's preparing that report?
It starts with a B. It has escaped me too, just as you asked, but I can look it up and let you know.
So
It was Belfour. They're working on this.
So we have no direct control over this. Randy, based on the other agencies that you and your team work with, should they be done with this already?
It should be. Yeah, it's certainly, since we are in November, it certainly should be done by now. But with the one caveat is that since they are new, they obviously have to build up their files and their understanding of how library works. And so I'm not privy to that level of detail as to where they are in that process. I was frankly surprised, to be honest, that the report was not ready. We had discussed this some 3 weeks ago, and I was under the impression that it was coming out very soon back then. So it was a little bit of a shock to me when I found out Friday that it still has not been made available. So I'm hopeful that it'll be released very soon.
Can we ask Anne and Randy? Can we ask you to please apply all possible pressure to this firm and indicate how important it is? I would hate for us to miss our window on the audit of the financial reports.
Yes, of course. And the vendor is Bartel and Associates. I said Belfour. That was incorrect.
Oh, okay. Okay. So are they also doing the analysis of the pension fund for us?
Yes.
Okay. Barbara, I see you have a hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that was Bartel. I knew it was the same people that were doing, and they are newly hired, and it isn't like they have the information and it's their fault. I mean, we have to supply them with the information for them to do their calculations. So, and it's all new, right? I mean, and it's just all very recently submitted. So I don't think I'm not saying don't apply pressure, but I mean, I think it's because we were kind of late in getting there to request the actuarials. Is why it hasn't happened, right? And this isn't a company that automatically gets our information and then they're behind in giving us a report. That's kind of how I thought the conversation was going here.
Yeah.
Okay. But at this point, Anne and Randy, have they in fact received everything that they need from us?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, I'm going to move on to item 4.5, and this is good news. Mike, I see that you have been sitting here patiently. So we have received some matching funds, and I'm going to let our CFO Myrna and our IT manager Mike Dawe talk about this grant and their request for corresponding budget adjustment for the matching funds.
Thank you. I can lead off with an introduction of what it is and what we're going to be using it for. This was a grant opportunity that arose late last spring that with the IMLS, Institute of Museums and Library Services. Sorry, I have two screens and I'm looking at some information over here. So that's why you'll see my eye dart a little bit. That was submitted to them on the 28th of June, well past our budget creation for the year. And so we were just last month on the 26th notified that we were awarded the grant project, which sum totals just around $82,000 matching with IMLS for a really exciting opportunity that extends what we're doing in our community. And we were talking about broadband access. Well, it's a Sonoma-fi pop up your library or pop up your internet is what the grant title is. And what we're going to be doing is buying ruggedized network kits, similar to what you would see with first responders, so that we can take these kits out to our communities and provide classes, trainings, whether that be digital arts and media creation or job skills or regular library program style classes as well, out to where we need them to be. We had a similar project with a separate grant, Kids with Cameras in Cloverdale, where we went to their community and taught these children how to use, younger students, how to use iPads to film them interviews of themselves and their experiences with the pandemic and how it's affected them. And so that was knitted together, and then we've provided a televised link of that story so that they could talk about how they dealt with learnings and COVID, et cetera. To wrap that back around, these kits will expand our reach with that type of a program. Obviously, that was well past our budget cycle, which brings us to here, to how we're going to fund the opportunity. So with that, I'll hand that part off to Myrna, and then we can answer questions as they come from all you.
Okay, so this is great news. That means that we can reach more people and continue to provide strong services for the community. And so essentially the project cost is $82,920. The grant, the way it's structured is that the Institute of Museum and Library Services grant is $41,460, and the grant requires a one-to-one match to that. So the library is on the hook for $41,460 in a matching requirement. And the source of that, the staff is recommending using Measure Y, and it is Wi-Fi services. So this is an allowable expenditure under the expenditure plan under Measure Y. So the recommendation is to use Measure Y fund balance for the matching requirement. And what that means is we need an action from the commission to receive these funds, the revenue. So we would see an increase in revenue and an increase in appropriation of so the increase in revenue would be $41,460. That's the incoming source from the IMLS, and the increase in appropriation is the full cost of the project. However, it does cover 2 fiscal years. So for this fiscal year, the increase in revenue would be 41,460. If you can, Jen, if you can jump to the table. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you at the table? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a different screen. Okay.
No, it's okay. She was there.
I was looking on my other monitor. So the increase for the impact for fiscal year 22 is increase in funding revenue for $38,460. And the use of Measure Y would be the corresponding $38,460 for anticipated sources of $76,920. And the reason for this is the equipment will be purchased upfront in this fiscal year. And that shows in the expenditures down in the second items, where it's the uses for this fiscal year of those sources is $67,920 in the purchases of the small equipment, and the Verizon wireless services of $9,000 for the duration, the months of January through June. So for a total of expenditures of $76,920. Since the grant award is from November 1, 2021 to October 31, 2022, it covers also next fiscal year, FY23. And in FY23, we expect only to have to pay for the wireless services, and that's what you see in FY23. The other point is here that for FY23, these costs and sources will be reflected in the budget development process. So no need to take action for FY 2023 now. The only action is for FY 22. And if you are in agreement, then the plan is to take the resolution for a budget adjustment in December to the full commission consideration.
Okay, well, that's exciting. Thanks for bringing this to us. I'm going to open it up for comments, questions, discussion.
Well, I
Tom,
certainly
go ahead.
think this is a fine idea, and I think it belongs on December's agenda.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Tom?
I suppose what we should be doing is recommending approval to the Library Commission, which is taking an action, which you said earlier, we're not planning on doing this meeting.
Well, I saw this as a discussion item. I didn't see it as an action item, but my sense of what do you recommend? Let me ask you this: how would you recommend that we?
Well, I think the use of a committee is to recommend certain actions and to review things and to say, I mean, they know we look at the financials and we're asking all kinds of squirrely questions about that kind of stuff. The commission feels comfortable about that. And I think they expect a yay or nay recommendation on something like this. Now, we have a problem that we didn't agendize taking action. And having said that, I don't necessarily want to put this off, but I think it's an issue that we have to address, that we should be taking action some of the time if it's no more than making a recommendation to the commission.
Okay. Barbara, go ahead. I won't say.
Oh, I was just going to say, I agree that there are times when we need to make recommendations. We haven't really done them a lot over the time. But I think there's a way of wording this that, assuming we all give a thumbs up, that in your report, Andy, you can certainly say that the consensus of opinion, this is, an excellent project and there's general support among the finance committee after, hearing a detailed report or something like that. I mean, you can phrase it in a gentle way or not gentle, but in a way that we understood it. We heard all the details, we were supportive, and without taking formal action. But I agree with Tom that in the future there are items that really do ask for a more formal recommendation. But I think we can push this on to the December Commission agenda with our understanding and our consensus of agreement that it's a great project, assuming we all give thumbs up.
Well, so with that in mind, do any members of the committee have any questions, concerns, or objections to this proposed adjustment?
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay. Then I think that's what the minutes should reflect, Jen. I think we should indicate that Myrna and Mike presented. We discussed it. We had no objections to their bringing it to the full commission for approval on December 6th. And I would just like to add congratulations. The digital divide and the lack of high-speed internet access continues to be a really important issue in our community. And this seems like a creative way to chip away at that problem. So Mike, to you and your team, thanks for spearheading this. And let's bring it to the full commission and get their approval, okay?
Thank you.
This is Deborah. I'd also like to say that, it's not easy getting an IMLS grant. So this is really terrific.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Deborah. And yes, so good work, Ann and team, for doing this. Okay. I realize that we're already after 4. I'm going to try to move quickly through these last 2 items. First of all, I want to apologize to everybody. I think many of you know I've been gone for the past month on a series of trips relating to family matters. And so I have not taken much action in preparing for the financial workshop for the full commission. Normally the first thing we would try to do is get it scheduled, but I think given the uncertainty around the report from Bartell Associates and the resulting uncertainty around the completion of the audit, I'm not sure that we're going to be that we're in a position yet to schedule something for early in 2022. I'm going to ask for help. We have just a kind of a quick recap. There were 4 topics that we were going to cover in this: the commission's role in financial oversight, a review of the audited financial reports, a mid-year budget review, and educating the commission on our long-term liabilities, specifically pension and OPEB. Commissioner Engbarth has volunteered to assist me in putting together something on the commission's role in financial oversight, and I'm going to gratefully accept his offer of assistance. I'm wondering if any members of the committee would like to assist in the section relating to educating the commission on our long-term liabilities, specifically the pension and OPEB. And Barbara, I'm looking at you and hoping that you'll agree to participate in that.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you. You were just volunteered, or maybe voluntold. You did that so graciously. Thank you. If anybody else would like to assist with any of these areas, please let me know. I'm assuming that Randy and Myrna and staff will be the ones to spearhead the informational sections related to the audited financial reports and the mid-year budget review. So let's keep our fingers crossed for quick receipt of the GASB report, and hoping that we can get those audited financials done before Pisenti and Brinker has to turn their attention to something else. The last item is I just wanted to circle back to our new CFO. And Myrna, without, I don't mean to put you on the spot for any kind of work plan yet, but wondering if you could just maybe talk high level about what you've seen so far in terms of need or opportunity for some clearer documentation and cross-training relating to our internal accounting procedures and policies.
Sure. So I've been looking into the policies and procedures, and there is a collection of a couple of binders full of policies and procedures. They range from really nice formal policies and procedures to emails that were, put hole punches into and collected into a binder. So we all do recognize that there is work to be done in updating the accounting policies and procedures. Randy has also gone over several items over the last few meetings with you all, where there is a need to update and tighten policies and procedures among our budget and accounting staff. So I do have an eye on a work plan for this specific project, and working closely with our team and both management. That would include cross-training to ensure that that our team can back each other up. And also, ideally, I would like to have a technology solution where information is readily available, not only to the budget and accounting staff, but to management, and have transparency for many reasons, as you are fully aware of, and also for any, just real closely to me is training and transitioning new staff, so that we have everything located in any event if someone were to leave or have a long absence. So that is my long-term vision and goal for the policies and procedures, so that we can have a smooth running engine here.
Well, that would be great. Dave, I see you've got a hand up.
Yeah, Myrna, just so you'll know, about a little over a year ago, I asked our commission assistant, Jane Clickman, for any copies of accounting procedures because we were getting into heavy weather. And she said she couldn't find any, just so you'll know. And my guess is that a lot of these things were in the long-term CFO's head, and he retired and stuff didn't get transferred from his head to any kind of paper. But it's good to know that at least there's some written materials floating around.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll be working diligently.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments for Myrna on this topic? Well, I'd just like to say, first of all, thank you. Yeah, Tom, I see you've got a hand up.
I have another topic. I have another item I think I'd like to have considered by the committee in the future. And page 9 of the Measure Y committee report, that was in the last agenda item for the commission. There's a paragraph there that says that they think we should have adjusted the budget mid-year differently than what we did do. And I think we need to look at that and consider that issue and respond to them in some way. So I'd like to have that discussed.
So this is, just so I'm clear, they're talking about the mid-year budget adjustment that
Mid-year
occurred.
budget adjustment, the second paragraph on page 9 of their report.
But this is about the mid-year budget adjustment that occurred almost a year ago, correct?
Well, the way they're phrasing it is that we didn't do it appropriately, perhaps, or we didn't actually do what we should adjust it properly.
Okay.
So I think it's just, you look at that, look at it. I think it's a discussion item that needs to be addressed and we need to respond to them.
So this is you're referring to the Measure Y report that was in the full commission
Yes. in the full
packet that
commission
we
packet.
did not discuss last month, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So,
And I think that discussion on this is going to have to start with us when we deal with it.
well, I was assuming when it was postponed that they were planning to be on the agenda for the upcoming commission meeting in December. Ann, is that your understanding
Yes,
about
that's
that?
correct.
I'm not asking for them to change it. I'm just saying that they made a comment that's slightly critical and we need to respond to it perhaps.
Well, maybe we need
In
to
an
listen
appropriate
to
way.
it first. I appreciate you calling it out. Let's let them present to the commission. Let's ask questions to make sure we understand what their concern is. And then let's be sure we can address it collectively when we do the mid-year budget adjustments for this year.
Thank you.
Okay. Myrna, thanks for that update. You know, I do not want either our committee or the full commission to get into the weeds on this, but I think we will be asking you from time to time just to report generally on your progress with this work plan, because these are significant gaps and we would feel a lot more comfortable knowing that there are in fact well-documented and understood procedures and that the staff has been trained on following them. Good. I'm about to adjourn the meeting, but in the spirit of what Tom just said, is there anything that you would like to suggest as an additional topic for next month's meeting? I think we're going to have plenty. I don't see any hands. Okay, I'd like to thank everybody, Ann, Myrna, Mike, and staff, Randy, and of course the committee, and those members of the staff and commission who listened in on the call. We're going to adjourn. It's 4:13. Thank you very much. And Jen, thanks as always for everything you do to keep us working.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you all.
Take care, everybody.
Good day.
Bye-bye.